Right, and I think we have got Mr. Rob Otto on the line. Rob, you there?
I am indeed. How's it, Mikey? How are you, mate?
Not bad, not bad. I could be feeling better, but...
Yes, well. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we should probably get it get it over with.
Yeah, get it over.
Let's get it out the way, Rob.
didn't get the fairy tale ending that we were all hoping for.
Oh no!
In the Super Rugby final. So the Sharks lost 37-6, unfortunately, in a very one-sided final. I think we all sort of knew what. We all sort of suspected that they might really struggle with the effects of the travel. I think they were pretty competitive for about the first 15 minutes or so of the match. They really got stuck into the Chiefs. But I think it was never really meant to be. The Chiefs got a score through right wing Tim and I Williams after about 15 minutes. And you could kind of see that the Sharks' head started to drop at that stage, and started to make some basic mistakes. It was really chucking down with rain the whole game. The hands started to let the Sharks down a little bit, and Chiefs went on to score. Well, actually, they didn't score again in the first half. I think the Sharks did quite well to turn it just 13-3 down. Sort of given how they hadn't really been in the game. But then the second half was pretty much one-way traffic with the Chiefs scoring 3 more tries. The last one to Sonny Bill Williams, which of course was really popular with all of the crowd in Hamilton, and not particularly popular with anybody else, I think.
Yeah, I mean, did you see how he jumped up into the crowd like as if he was a football star?
Yeah, good old Sonny. I mean, he does. I think the commentators at one stage, after a particularly interesting tackle that he put in on was it on Ryan Kankowski, or no, it was on Pat Lambie, in fact. The commentator said it looks like he's forgotten what code he's playing, sort of getting back to his rugby league roots.
Yeah.
And then with that try celebration, sort of reminiscent of NFL at its best. So, yeah, and he's a boxer as well, so certainly a man of many talents is old Sonny Bill. But, anyway, so...
We did say 4 weeks ago, didn't we, when you were on the show, Rob, that, we did say this was going to be the hardest one. The Reds away, Stormers at home. I mean, we pretty much outlined their route to the final. And let's be honest, had they pulled off the victory, it probably would have been the greatest victory of the Super 15 competition because of how hard they've made it for themselves in the last stages. But,
for sure. I mean, I think you're completely right there. There's no two ways about it. I think I said as much, on Twitter, is that there's not really much point in us complaining about, the itinerary that we were forced to go through. We made the rod for our own backs by losing in the regular season when we should have won.
Yep.
Too many games early on in the year that the Sharks really should have performed a lot better than they did. Not to take anything away from the absolutely wonderful run that they've been on over the last few weeks, but they've been up against it, sort of defying the odds all the way through. The knockout against the Reds, there was a good victory, and I think we probably could have picked that based on how well the Sharks have been playing. To come back and beat the Stormers, I mean that was the really big result and a really big achievement. Going over to Hamilton immediately after that to face a rested and informed Chiefs side, a bridge too far. I think we all got a little bit caught up in sort of believing in the dream, and I think we were right to believe that the Sharks could do it. But I guess the smart money prevailed this time.
And the boys can walk away with their heads held high. I mean, as you say, I think maybe the Stormers was, as you say, maybe a step too far. It took a lot out of the guys, but. They've travelled well. They've defied a lot of the critics, I suppose, so to speak. So that the guys can be proud of themselves.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think there's a man in that squad that can look back over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks and say that they didn't do everything that they possibly could do. Didn't give their all. Didn't sort of put down everything they had for the team, for the fans. As a Sharks supporter, I'm hugely proud of what the guys did. I think all the players should also be hugely proud of what they've achieved. It would have been absolutely wonderful to come back with that trophy. Wasn't to be this year, but I think again there's a valuable lesson that's been hopefully has been reinforced, and something that we can take away and build on for next year's campaign.
Yeah.
And now the boys go off, I'm guessing, for a bit of a nice, well-deserved rest, and well, for some, and then I think some of the boys are making their way into the Bok training squad. Then.
Yes, well, it's interesting actually to see what's going to happen because this very weekend the Currie Cup kicks off. It's ridiculous. So we're not sure yet exactly what's going to happen. The Currie Cup games coming up this week. We've got the Bulls taking on Griquas on Friday night. We've got the Sharks the Western Province against the Sharks at Newlands, and the Lions against the Cheetahs, and those games are both happening on Saturday. So I'm not sure exactly who's got home ground advantage in which of those games. But certainly for the Sharks boys coming back, to think that some of them might be expected to turn around and play a Currie Cup game on Saturday, it just defies logic. So, I, as a Sharks supporter, I'm actually hoping that they decide to pick a weekend side to go and play Province, regardless of the result, because I think after what those boys in the Super Rugby squad have been through, they deserve at least a week off.
Yeah.
They don't deserve to get sent off to Cape Town now.
Is it too much rugby, Rob, do you think? I mean, do you think that the Currie Cup maybe should now, moving forward, should be the stomping ground for those guys, out of the under 21s, that have left the under 21s and are maybe, searching for those senior colours, so to speak, in the main squad? Do you think this is a good? I mean, it's always proved in the past a good little proving point, and do you think maybe that's how they should start?
Well, I kind of want to agree with you on the one hand, but also want to very strongly disagree on the other hand. And I think it's maybe just from the point of that the special significance that the Currie Cup has for myself and for a lot of other South African rugby fans is that it seems, it doesn't seem right to see it relegated to the status of a development competition. What you say about there being too much rugby is completely correct. Super Rugby now starting sort of early in February and carrying on until early in August. The Currie Cup, as it is just being kind of squeezed at both ends all the time. The one positive thing that's happened this year, to my mind, is that it's now down to a 6-team Premier Division. So at least we're back to strength against strength. But again, with all of the box out for the duration of the tournament, it's inevitably is becoming a sort of a development, sort of more of a young players coming through type of tournament. And yeah, in a way that is a positive thing. We do need a tournament where we can showcase our younger talent. But just given the sort of the history of that trophy and what it means to so many, it does seem a shame that when you get to the Currie Cup final in sort of October, which is always meant to be the sort of the South African domestic rugby showpiece, you want your best teams to be playing, you want your best players to be playing, and I just don't really see that happening anymore. So, not really sure what the answer is. I think the answer probably is for Super Rugby to become shorter rather than for the Currie Cup to become less important. But we're only one partner in that whole setup, and at times it feels like we're the least important partner. Even though if you look at the number of TV viewers we bring, we should be the most significant one. But I guess that's a point for the administrators to pick up on.
One thing I tweeted about this week was that I have a statement to make. Okay, and I will live up to this if it happens. If the Sharks make the Currie Cup final in October, I will fly to SA to the game for the weekend and watch it.
For the final?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, let's hope you're forced to honour that commitment.
Absolutely.
I'll make a statement. If you do that, I will let you buy my ticket to go with you.
Yeah. And just in case the two of you get lonely.
I'm sure we could work a deal somehow with the SAA or something like that.
I get somebody to sponsor. That's always the best way.
Of course.
That's always the best way. So, I think, look, in terms of the Currie Cup, it's very difficult at this stage to say what's really going to happen, because we've really got no real indication of form. We don't even really know who's going to be playing and who's not going to be playing. One thing that that we must say, and this does start to sort of come towards the box squad announcement, which we can talk about as well, is that it's going to be really, really tough for teams like the Sharks, for teams like the Bulls, that are contributing the bulk of the players to the Springbok squad. Other teams have been less affected by call-ups. Western Province, I'm sure, will be very strong.
Sure.
The Cheetahs will be strong. But there's also, there's a really dark horse there in Griquas who's been quietly going about, building up a competitive squad at this level, have done well at Currie Cup level the last few years, completely unaffected by any Springbok call-ups, have got all their continuity and everything else like that. So, I think it's going to be a very interesting Currie Cup, a very tight Currie Cup, because, it's the fact that so many players are missing to Springbok commitment has, kind of leveled the playing fields. And you've got 6 sides. I think any one of whom realistically could win it this year. So I wouldn't be buying a ticket just yet, Marky. But let's hope the Sharks can be there at the business end.
Well, Griquas notoriously start well in this tournament, because I think a lot of people forget that players from the Sharks and other provinces around do end up at the Griquas to get themselves a bit of senior rugby when probably they're out of the mix. You look at the likes of Justin Downey. Now, I know he probably wasn't at Griquas in the past, but he was at one of the other smaller franchises. But he's a
Downey's been at Griquas. He went to Griquas straight from the Sharks.
So
he's
Griquas
been there for a good few years now.
And then he's popped up on the scene with the Lions, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he's been playing Super Rugby for the Cheetahs.
That's it, for the Cheetahs.
He's ended up in the Cheetahs squad through being a Griquas player. But he's done incredibly well for himself.
Yeah, but that shows that there was a guy who was at the Sharks setup, wasn't getting much senior time, went down to Griquas, and got a bit of senior rugby experience, a bit of game time, and it's worked for him. So that's why those teams do end up, they do have decent squads out there.
Most definitely. I think it's Griquas in particular. Now that the Premier Division of the Currie Cup has been restructured, becoming an incredibly attractive destination for young players who want to get noticed in that sort of in that Currie Cup competition. So, they're going to be good, I think.
And a good little note from our former Shark player who picked up his first little call up was Pat Cilliers.
Yes, well, indeed. So let's talk about the box squad.
Yeah.
Absolutely great for Pat.
Yeah.
They picked a squad of 30 players for the Rugby Championship. Now, what they've said is we start out with a match at Newlands against Argentina in 2 weeks' time. Then we fly to Buenos Aires for the return match against Argentina. And then after that, it's into Aussie and New Zealand as usual. And I must say, I haven't quite memorised those fixtures yet. Squad of 30 picked for the first match. What they say is then they'll reduce that squad to 26 to actually travel to Argentina. But anyway, I think they pretty much sort of laid out their stall. Mm-hmm. Interesting squad. There hasn't been all that much movement from the squad that played against England. The only newcomers into the mix is Andries Becker, who was out injured for that squad. So he's not a new cap, but he's just been out injured, and he's come back in at the expense of the Lionsman Franco van der Merwe, who's dropped out. The two new caps, let's say new members of the squad that obviously need to get onto the field to be capped, is Lions prop Pat Cilliers, who moved to Joburg from the Sharks a good few years ago, Michael boy. And then also Province flank Sia Kolisi, who was also has been sort of really impressive in Super Rugby so far this year. He was left out against England, and a lot of people thought that was a big mistake. But he's been picked in the squad now as well. Guys that played against England that are no longer there. I think the two major casualties are Wynand Olivier and, of course, Ryan Kankowski, on the basis that both have signed contracts to go and play in France, in Japan, rather, at the end of Super Rugby, and those contracts apparently don't allow them to play for the Springboks. I think, Olivier aside, he's never really been much of a favourite of anybody outside of Pretoria, but there does seem to be a groundswell of support for Kankowski at the moment, given the rugby that he's dished up for the Sharks over the last few years. I think a lot of people saying quite legitimately that he really, would be the first choice number 8 for the Boks now. So I think hugely disappointing for all concerned. that he's that he's off to play his rugby in sort of for the Toyota side in Japan, rather than playing 8 for the Boks in the rugby championship. But well, such is life, I guess.
I wonder if they're going to give him a little Corolla to drive around.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so a bit of a shocking one, that I must say. But anyway,
but then you kind of. I mean, I'm not. Look, I mean, I'm not going to call myself a rugby specialist, but I kind of like what Heineken Meyer is doing with the Boks squad in certain aspects, but I just don't know where he's at on our loose trio. I just don't know what type of loose trio he's looking for. It kind of just begs the question. I think Khaleesi's done well to grant his inclusion. A lot of people have said no. A lot of people said yes. You're always going to get that with the new selection. I think he's incredibly strong. I think he's proved himself, especially he's been one of the outstanding guys for the Stormers all the way around. But then and shoot me down, but I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Derek Minnie, and I know people are going to hate me for saying that, but I think that guy he's been a stalwart for the Lions throughout the season. I know he probably gives away too many penalties, but I just think he's kind of got a bit of a mould of a fetcher for the Sharks. I mean,
the thing that I have noticed about this, now that you mention it, is I think that Meyer doesn't really believe in specialist loose forwards. Just based on who he's picked. He's okay. So the loose forwards that are in the squad, from the Sharks, we've got Keegan Daniel, Willem Albus, and Marcel Coetzee all in there, which is good return. Then from the Bulls, still Pierre Spies, Jacques Potgieter, and Sia Khaleesi. Now those guys, there aren't too many there that sort of fit into sort of one particular mold. Okay, Pierre Spies, I guess, fits into the mold of a winger, but other than him, there's a lot of sort of versatility in there. But the one thing that there isn't a specialist open sider. Khaleesi has played at open side and at blind side and at 8. Marcel Coetzee is the guy that Meyer seems to see as his open side. But I mean, he's played blind side for the Sharks, started his career as an 8 as well. Albert 7 and 8, Potgieter, I suppose, only really 7, but probably also a utility lock. So yeah, a guy like Minnie, I don't know. I must say, I haven't really thought of him too much. I suppose being slightly cynical, it's not hard to stand out in the Lions team.
No, sure.
But he does regularly. What you say about the penalties, I think, is probably the thing that counts against him. And I think the problem that Heineken Meyer apparently has with a guy like Heinrich Brousseau is that he gives away too many penalties. So, if he's going to not pick Brousseau on that basis, I think it would be very difficult for him to bring a guy like Minnie in. But yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I think Minnie's a hell of a player. He's a guy that that's consistent, stands out, always gives his all for the team, and always really looks good, even in performances team performances that don't really stand out. So
yeah, but then again, you do come from a country where we are blessed with some of the finest loose forwards in world rugby. So it's never going to be easy. So.
No, it's not. But I mean, to be fair to Meyer, I think that there are a number of injuries as well, which are sort of maybe forcing his hand a little bit. My information is that he's a really big fan of Dwayne Vermeulen, and that's probably the guy that he'd like to have at number 8, if he could just stay fit. The absence of Skalkberger obviously also opens a big hole. John Smith, of course, is sort of long-term injury casualty. Brousseau himself, I believe, is actually carrying an injury at the moment as well. So, we might. I think the release from SA Rugby actually said that Brousseau hadn't been considered at this stage because of injury, rather than necessarily because the coach doesn't rate him. So, you can look at some of those selections. The likes of Khaleesi, the likes of Potgieter, and say, well, really. Are those the best guys we've got? But there's definitely a lot of other players out. So I mean, just having a look at the makeup of the squad of 30 players, 11 of which still are Bulls players, 10 from the Sharks, only 4 from Western Province, and then the balance obviously made up of Cheetahs and Free State. So. Yeah, from looking at it from the point of view of saying, well, if the Stormers, won the South African Conference, and well, according to some of their fans, they would have just had to pitch up in the final to beat the Chiefs, but unfortunately they choked on the hors d'oeuvre and didn't quite get there. But yeah, to me, I do find that there are a few names there, sort of hailing from times of Pretoria, whose selections might still be considered a little bit fortunate given how their team performed in Super Rugby. I'm thinking specifically the likes of sort of JJ Engelbrecht, for Mark at scrum half, and then still Jacques Potgieter as well. It's been a little bit inconsistent. Zane Kirshner also sort of been a little bit up and down. So there are a few. Pierre Spies and Mornay Steyn, let's be honest, haven't been absolutely great either at international or Super Rugby level this year. Yeah. But again, I think injuries forcing the coach's hand, limited time to prepare, wanting to work with the players that he knows, probably swaying some of those selections.
Cool. Well, one thing just before we go, Rob. What's his name? That Chiefs prop yesterday that had that big hit on.
No, you're not going to ask me to pronounce his name, are you?
No. Well, I'll try. But a friend of mine, Hayden Turon, messaged me on Facebook now. He says that Chiefs prop Ben Taumafuna has been cited for a dangerous tackle.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I saw that email come through, and I kind of threw my phone against the wall in disgust. I thought, well, it doesn't bloody help us now, does it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, shocking hit. Was that? It was him who hit Kanko. Yeah, absolutely shocking hit. Sort of leading in with the form and the shoulder.
You could see that he went straight in with the shoulder, and I was sitting with my brother-in-law and everybody at the Slug, and that was just pure disgusting.
But, well, there was definitely there was talk at the time. It was that hit, and then it was also I think the hit from Sonny Bill on Pat Lambie.
That was.
And the kind of the comments were, well, look, if Butch James or Bucky's Buerta had done something like that, red card immediately.
Exactly.
So it's still a feeling that there's a different set of laws that gets blown. That could have made some sort of a difference if they'd had a man binned for that tackle. I'm sort of there've been some people who've been a little bit unhappy with the way Steve Walsh blew the final as well.
My
the
dad
way I look
in
at
particular.
Well, there were some pretty strange decisions. There's no doubt about it. But hey, that's the Steve Walsh we know and know. But I'm sort of choosing to look at it as to say I don't really believe that the Sharks were really in that game. You could tell the forwards in particular just looked finished from about 20 minutes into the game. Not wanting to write off the team, but I think Walsh could have sent off 3 or 4 Chiefs players. We still would have battled to win. The level of fatigue that it set in there. So,
Steve Walsh better watch out because unless Marky Warren and PharSide will get in this case, it might be a petition to end his rugby career.
We've got to have something to aim for in 2013.
It's been done once. So.
I managed to help get rid of Bryce Lawrence. Watch out.
Put your suggestions in the suggestion box for which refs you don't want next year.
Well, I think history will smile on you fondly for that. Public service money.
No, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Rob. It was I really enjoyed this report. It's put a smile on my face. Obviously from yesterday, I was really down. I tell you, the Slug was absolutely packed yesterday morning.
I can imagine.
They served, I think it was 200 breakfasts. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I tell you, I take in particular to Hayley. Hayley Blight, she's the assistant manager there. She was in the kitchen cooking all those breakfasts.
Pleasure.
Just to give you an idea, right? It was 2 eggs, 2 fried eggs, 2 hash browns, 2 slices of toast, a big piece of vorse, 2 thick pieces of bacon, mushroom and tomato. I tell you what, I couldn't even finish half of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it was awesome.
We've got to get you down this side, Rob, soon.
No, we'll definitely. we'll definitely make a plan. We'll definitely make a plan. We've got a long Currie Cup season coming up. We've got some good Test rugby coming up as well. So we'll definitely make a plan.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I mean, if I can, just for maybe a closing thought from my side. I think there's been a lot of there's been a lot of people sort of going through some quite different emotions after yesterday's game. There was from the Shark supporters camp anyway, there was a lot of sort of hype building up. People showing their support and really getting behind the boys. And I think it's inevitable that the fans are sort of feeling a little bit deflated and a little bit let down after that. And then there were, of course, one or two Stormers supporters who took the opportunity to, to get a bit of a dig in, which generally wasn't well appreciated. But I can sort of definitely now understand the way that those guys must be feeling after what happened to them last week. So, but just to Shark supporters, just again to reiterate from my side how proud I am of what the team managed to achieve.
Absolutely,
having looked dead and buried halfway through the season to get to the finals, an incredible achievement. And we've just got to make sure that we really learn from what happened this year, and turn it to our advantage next year. We don't want it to be another 5 years before we get to the final again.
Yeah.
Cool
Good
stuff.
Well, thanks a lot, Rob. And
always a pleasure.